Welcome back, horror geeks, to 100 Days of Horror. It is day 37 in a row. And we're looking at 100 horror films we haven't seen and leading up to Halloween, posting those at citygeek.com and our Facebook group. So follow the link down below and then tell us what you're watching on the Facebook group, because it's still not too late to join. I'm going to say that until like day 100. That's not too late to join. You can watch 100 movies in one day, but worry about that on October 31st. We're here today to talk about Slumber Party Massacre. Yes, as a big horror fan, as a cult film fan, as a big fan of slasher films, it's surprising that I hadn't seen this until now. I borrowed the disc from Kim about the same day that it popped up on Shudder, so it's good timing in that case. I had two different ways to watch it. I hopefully watched the sequels later on. I think part 2 is on Prime. I don't know where 3's out there. But I was actually really surprised I'd never seen this before, though its reputation a lot preceded it of where it came from and what it meant to the genre. Because this came out in 1982 and is written by Rita Mae Brown, a noted feminist author who wrote it as a satire or parody of the genre that was still kind of really growing at this point. It's kind of known for, dead co-eds, dead teenagers. The fact that it's only about 4 years into the cycle at this point, so they hadn't really actually had too many of those particular movies yet. At least a lot of ones that haven't really continued into today. When I think of some of the parts of the genre, I usually think later in the 80s in this case, but this is really early in of looking back on the first 4 years of that. And it's directed by Amy Jones, who after this doesn't do a lot of other horror films unless you consider being the writer for the Beethoven films to be horrific. Beethoven, Cujo, what's the difference? It's a big dog, so just watch it. Charles Grodin, wow, that's scary. Anyway, so Slumber Party Massacre is written as a satire and filmed straightforward. There isn't any winkiness to it, but when you watch it knowing that how it was written, you can see that in there of the comments of how things go by without being very direct. It's very phallic imagery with the driller killer in this case. You get you have the setup for the slasher scenes and the throwaway characters, one of which played by Brinke Stevens, probably the most well-known of the actors here, who did a lot of crap horror films as time goes by. Sorry Brinke, or Brink, or however you pronounce it. I think I talked about her in one of the earlier movies. And Sweaty Babes and Slime Ball Wrong, which I have a short take from about 2 months ago when that premiered on, when I would get back to watching the Joe Bob Briggs films. But you can find the link for that elsewhere on here if you want me here to talk about that for 5 minutes. But anyway, we're looking at Slumber Party Massacre, and it is what it is. As a satire, it mostly works. There's a lot to satire at this point besides the very basic setups of this and the phallic imagery, and this is where things normally go in this type of movie. Don't expect like Scream levels of reference back to itself. Of course, Scream is very direct with the satire. This is more subtle with that, where one person involved was writing it this way and the director is not taking it that way. So you have to kind of come into that with this. It's compared to, say, something like Student Bodies that came out the previous year, which is a direct parody. Between this and Student Bodies, it's interesting to see the reflectionness of the genre at this point. When something is a new setup and there's only been a couple years now back then. So as that artifact of looking back, it's interesting, but it's also as a slasher film, it works. It's definitely not scary in any way, but there's good kills, there's a lot of fun sequences, there is there's a rhythm to it that I really liked as things move through, and you got everything as you expect. Killer killing people when they go off by themselves, but find them later and screaming and kill themselves. So you got that. You got the basic setup continuing on as things go. And as a fan of slashers, I just enjoyed it as that. As someone, as knowing where the focus was, that makes things a little more interesting, because it makes you kind of think about the genre and the setup and what you expect compared to what you get and stuff like that. So I look forward to checking out the sequel and the third one eventually. Maybe we'll get both of them in later on for part of this series for 100 Days of Horror. We'll see. If not, I'll definitely still have something up when I watch that. So thank you for watching the short review of Slumber Party Massacre. Like, comment, subscribe. Go to Save Geek, see what we're working on. Go to our iTunes and subscribe to the podcast, and like, comment, and review for there. That way more people can see it and more you can watch it too. Yeah. And then yeah. So stay geeky, and we'll see you next time. Bye.